this is Ashley you once again, and I'm back with my review for all of the games that happened in Europe this past week, including the second legs of the last 16 ties in the Champions League and in the Europa League as well. And I'll also go through the draws for the quarterfinals for both competitions, as well as the semi-finals as well, and given they were made on Friday, and giving my reaction and predicting as to which teams will go through to the last four in both competitions. I hope you enjoy this video and look forward to seeing what I have to say about each and every single game that happens this week, and looking ahead to the ties next month as well. And so first up on Tuesday night, it was the last 16 of the Champions League, and the second leg ties, and two took place on Tuesday night. First up, it was City against Manchester City against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and at the not at the Etihad. This tie was played in Budapest, on the same stadium where they played the first leg as well. So neutral venue once again, but it didn't matter, as City once again swept aside the Germans, 2-0 as it was in the first leg as well. Tie was pretty much done after the first leg. I know it was only 2-0, but I couldn't really see how Gladbach were going to come back given their current form. And the City pretty much put the tie to bed within the opening 20 minutes. De Bruyne scored the first goal, a brilliant one at that, fired a shot in, a cracking strike from the edge of the box into the top corner, and then Gundogan got the second a few minutes later. I think he exchanged passes and then slotted it past the keeper, and that was pretty much game over, tie over really. I know Gladbach were slightly better than they were in the first leg, where they offered very little to try to get themselves back into the tie, but they didn't really have enough to worry the City goalkeeper, and in the end 2-0 was the final scoreline, and 4-0 on aggregate. Pretty comprehensive for City. They could have had more goals if they wished, but didn't really matter, and they'll be one of the favourites for this season's Champions League for sure, given how they're performing in the Premier League. They're keeping things tight at the back, they're making it very difficult for the opponents to score against them, and it'll be interesting to see how far they can go in this competition, but without doubt on this performance they'll be one of the favourites to go all the way. And then the other tie on Tuesday night was Real Madrid against Atalanta at the Stadio di Alfredo Di Stefano, as they call it, given that Real Madrid's current stadium of the Bernabeu is still under construction. Real Madrid had a 1-goal lead from the first leg in Bergamo, and won this tie second leg as well, 3-1. This was a tie where many people thought that Atalanta would come back, given how strong they've been on the road in this season's competition, and the fact that Real Madrid haven't really been at their sparkling best in both La Liga and the Champions League as well. So there was a chance that Atalanta could come back into this, turn this tie around and upset the odds, but it just wasn't to be for them. And if you look at the game as a whole, Atalanta were well beaten over the two legs. I know they had a man sent off in the first one, but Real Madrid still found a way through, and they extended their advantage in the second one after a terrible mistake by the Atalanta goalkeeper, who played a pass straight to Luka Modric, who fed Benzema, and he wasn't going to miss from inside the penalty box. And then you thought at that point that Atalanta would try and go for broke as they tried to turn the tie around, but they just didn't look to have the belief to really beat the current 13 times European champions. This is not the same Real Madrid as before, and you just felt that Atalanta, they just felt that, given Real Madrid's history, that they just looked scared of trying to mount some sort of comeback in this tie and take the game to them. And 2-0 on the hour mark, it was pretty pretty much tie over. Madrid were awarded a penalty after a foul in the area. I think it was Vinicius who was fouled, and then Sergio Ramos, as always, steps up to score from the penalty spot. 2-0, pretty much tie done. Atalanta did pull one back near the end for a brilliant free kick from Luis Muriel, but then Real Madrid went straight up the other end to end pretty much any hopes of a comeback. Asensio firing past the keeper at his near post. Questions about the goalkeeper's positioning and whether or not he should have saved it, but I'm sure Real Madrid won't care. That goal pretty much settled the tie, 3-1 on the night and 4-1 on aggregate. Real Madrid will be happy with their efforts over the two legs, but as for Atalanta, I felt very disappointed by their performance. I expected more from them over the two legs, given their all-out attacking style and the way they just press teams regardless of who they are, but over the two legs they looked scared of Real Madrid, if anything. Looked very limp, should I say. Didn't really try to take the game to a side who've not, as I said, have not been in the best of form this season. So it was quite a bit of a shock for me in that sense. But Real Madrid, they're 13 times European champions for a reason. They've got that experience still from winning those 3 Champions League titles in Zidane's first spell, with Modric and Kroos and Casemiro still at the heart of their midfield, and Ramos as their main man at the back. And it'll be interesting to see how far they go in this competition, Real Madrid. I know they're not one of the favourites, but they've been underdogs before, and yet they've still gone all the way. So who knows what may happen with them? But as for now, they're through to the last 8, and they'll look forward to seeing who they've got in the latter stages of the competition. I'll talk about the draw later on, but as for now, I'm not going to tell you guys who they've got until I've said later on. Yeah, and that's it for the Tuesday night's games. Wednesday night, moving on to Wednesday night, where 2 more teams who lost the first legs at home were looking to turn their ties around. Atletico Madrid were at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge to play Chelsea, having lost the first leg 1-0. And once again, I expected more from a side who are top of La Liga. Yes, they have stuttered of late in their quest to win the title, but I still felt that Atletico Madrid needed to do more than they did to try and take the game to a Chelsea side who have been very strong defensively under Thomas Tuchel. And once again, the Blues were much the better side in the second leg. 1-2-0, and it could have been more had it were not for their goal. Atletico's goalkeeper Jan Oblak. Chelsea did take the lead on the hour, around just past the hour mark, after a brilliant counter-attack which was led by Timo Werner, who squared the ball to Hakim Ziyech, who slotted it under the goalkeeper Jan Oblak for Atletico, who probably should have saved it. And so you felt at that point the onus was on Atletico to force the issue, get out of what they've been usually do, which is try and sit in and hit teams on a break. They had to take the game to Chelsea in this instance, but once again, just like Atalanta, they never really went for it. And as the game wore on, they became more frustrated, and with 8 minutes to go, Savic got himself sent off for what looked like a soft elbow into the chest of Antonio Rudiger. I think Rudiger made a bit of a meal of that, but with 10 men, 8 minutes to go and 2-0 down on aggregate, it's pretty much game over. And Chelsea had time to seal the deal right at the end when their forgotten man, Emerson, went forward on a break and finished past the goalkeeper, Oblak, from just inside the penalty area. And 2-0 on the night and 3-0 of the two legs doesn't actually flatter Chelsea, because they were much the better side. Questions have to be asked of Atletico Madrid and their manager Diego Simeone as to their approach in this tie, and they now have to focus on trying to win the La Liga title, where they're in a fight with Barcelona and Real Madrid as well. So they've got work to do to make sure it's a successful season for them. But as for now, they're out of the Champions League. As for Chelsea, they'll feel like they'll be very confident of getting further in this competition, given their display in this tie against a side who even though they don't like to attack, but they're very strong defensively. So Chelsea will feel very happy to have got through what on paper looked a difficult tie for them. And then in the other tie on Wednesday night, it was Bayern Munich against Lazio. Tie was pretty much done after the first leg. Bayern Munich won 4-1 in Rome, and even though this second leg was a bit tighter, still felt that Bayern Munich had another gear to go through, and they opened scoring early on, I think from the penalty spot through Lewandowski, and then Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting came off the bench to score near the end to make it 2-0. Lazio did pull one back through Marco Parolo, but it was way too little too late to make any difference in the tie, and Bayern Munich saw the game out to progress 6-2 on aggregate. They still have hopes of winning this season's Champions League and the Bundesliga as well, and they'll be looking to do just that. As for Lazio, they're out of the Champions League, and they'll be looking to concentrate on doing well in Serie A and maybe finish in the top 4 to get themselves back in next season's competition. So Bayern Munich will still be one of the teams to watch in the latter stages of the Champions League, and it'll be interesting to see if they can successfully defend the title that they won from last season, where they were just so scintillating, won all 11 of their games. I know they can't do it this season, but it is possible that they could win all their remaining games of this season's Champions League, given the way they're going at this minute. And then moving on to Thursday night, it was the Europa League last 16 second legs. 16 second legs. In the early kickoffs, there were 4 of them. Arsenal against Olympiacos. Olympiacos at the Emirates was the first one of them. And the Gunners lost 1-0 against the Greek side, but still went through 3-2 on aggregate, having won the first leg in Greece by 3-1. Tie was pretty much done then, and all Arsenal needed to do was not concede 3 goals, and they managed to do just that. But once again, they were not convincing, the Gunners. They did miss a lot of chances, but didn't really play to their best, and Olympiacos scored the only goal of the night through El Arabi, who's been a tormentor for Arsenal in recent years, given he scored the winner when the Greek side knocked the Gunners out of the Europa League last season. And he was on target once again at the Emirates, but this time it wasn't enough, and Arsenal through to the last 8 of the Europa League, unlike Tottenham, who after winning 2-0 in the first leg at home, surprisingly lost 3-0 against Dinamo Zagreb in Croatia. I don't think anyone would have expected that to happen, given how dominant Tottenham were in the first leg in London. They should have won by more than the 2 goals, but you still fancied them to progress, especially the fact they didn't concede an away goal as well. And it was a very dire Tottenham performance, it has to be said. They just felt, yes, they didn't need to go for it, Tottenham, but you still expected them to do a professional job. But as the game wore on, they became more and more passive, and that just invited Dinamo Zagreb on to attack, given the onus was on them. And on the hour mark, Zagreb opened the scoring for a brilliant strike from Orsic into the top corner, and at that point it was game on, but you still felt Tottenham would have had enough to see the game out. But with 8 minutes to go, Dinamo levelled the tie on aggregate through that man again, Mislav Orsic, who timed his run perfectly in the centre of the penalty area to finish high into the net past Lloris. And 2-0 and 2-2 on aggregate, it was anybody's game, but you still expected Tottenham to come out of their shell and get the job done. It's particularly as they were the away team, particularly given the fact that one goal for them would mean that Dinamo needed to score twice more. And in extra time, you felt that Tottenham were just on their way to getting that all-important third goal of the game, but it just wasn't to be for them. And Dinamo made them pay for their poor performance. It was very lacklustre as well, with Mislav Orsic's third goal of the game, a brilliant one at that. Took the ball past a couple of Tottenham players and then curled it into the bottom corner past Lloris, and suddenly Dinamo Zagreb were ahead on aggregate. But still, Tottenham only needed that one goal to get themselves through, but they couldn't find it, despite the best efforts of Harry Kane, whose shot from close range was saved by the Dinamo goalkeeper. And when that chance went begging, you just knew it wasn't going to be Tottenham's night. They couldn't find that goal, and as a result, they're out of the Europa League. Shocking night for them after being 2-0 up from the first leg to capitulate the way they did. And questions will be asked about Mourinho and his team's mentality as to whether or not they can succeed and win a trophy under his tenure. I know they've still got the EFL Cup final to come, but that's against an all-conquering Manchester City side. So, regardless of the outcome of that, it's not really been a good season for Tottenham. Their main aim was to try and get themselves back into the Champions League next season, and the fact they're out of the Europa League means they have to now do it through the Premier League, which it looks very unlikely they'll do it. There's only 6 points off the top four with a game in hand on some of those teams, but the way they're playing at the moment and the way I saw them in the North London derby against Arsenal the weekend, it looks very unlikely that they'll make up that gap and finish in the top four to get themselves back in the Champions League. So it's been a disappointing season so far for Tottenham. It looks like it's going to fall apart entirely, and questions will be asked about whether Jose Mourinho will be at the club next season as well. So worrying times for them, but as for Dinamo Zagreb, what a great result and great night for them, and they'll look forward to seeing who they play in the next round. And then in another of the early ties, Molde won 2-1 against Granada, but it was the Spanish side who progressed to the last 8, given they won the first leg 2-0. This second leg was played at a neutral venue in Budapest as well. Molde needed at least 2 goals to give themselves a chance, but that without conceding as well. And they opened the scoring through an own goal. I think it was Vallejo who put the ball into his own net. And Molde still needed only one more to force extra time. But when Granada equalised in the second half through Roberto Soldado, it was pretty much tie done. Soldado grabbing that all-important away goal for the Spanish side, which rendered Molde's late penalty score to win on the night pretty irrelevant, really. So Granada in their maiden European campaign are through to the quarter-finals. It's been a great campaign for them, and their European adventure goes on, as is Roma's as well, after they comprehensively dispatched of Shakhtar Donetsk. When I saw the draw for this tie, it looked like being a 50-50 one as well at that, and I actually predicted Shakhtar to go through because I felt they had enough in their attack to really cause Roma problems, but as it was, it's the Italian side who go through and comprehensively won as well. Having won the first leg 3-0 in Rome, they had 1 foot in the quarterfinals, and they completed the job in Ukraine with a 2-1 win. Borja Mayoral scored both their goals in the second half, either side of one from Junior Moraes, and Roma will be one of the teams to watch out for in the latter stages of the competition. I know they're still fighting to get into the top 4 in Serie A, but they'll also have their eyes on winning this competition to get themselves back in the Champions League for next season as well. And then moving on to the later kick-offs where two more British sides were in action. First up, it was the eagerly anticipated tie between Milan and Manchester United, which the Italian side had the edge going into the second leg, having drawn the first leg at Old Trafford 1-1. So United needed to score at the San Siro to have any chance of going through, and didn't look like they were going to do it after what was a tame first half by them. They didn't look to have their shooting boots on. They didn't play with the swagger that we've associated with them in recent weeks. But when Paul Pogba came on at the break, that completely changed, because he scored within 3 minutes of the second half. Brilliant goal it was. Bruno Fernandes left the ball to him inside the penalty area, and Pogba fooled the keeper, you would say, and put it past him at his near post, and ball past him at his near post, and 1-0, that was the goal that United needed. Milan did have chances to equalise, particularly the one by Ibrahimovic, whose header was saved by the United goalkeeper Dean Henderson. And that was it. United were through to the quarterfinals from what looked a tricky tie for them. Yes, they were slight favourites to progress given their superior European pedigree, but after the first leg at Old Trafford it looked very unlikely, so it was a job well done by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his men. But not so much for Rangers, who, despite earning a 1-1 draw against Slavia Prague in the first leg in the Czech Republic, are out of the Europa League, as they lost 2-0 to the Czech side at Ibrox, to go out 3-1 on aggregate. Once again, Rangers looked like they were still in title party mode, really, and Slavia Prague made them pay. They scored early on through Ole Yinka, who got the better of, I think it was Connor Goldson at his near post, to plant the ball past Alan McGregor, and then Rangers had two men sent off in the second half. The first one by Kamar Roof for a high boot on the Slavia Prague goalkeeper, which was a red card in my opinion. And then Leon Balogun, after losing the ball, he fouled Stancio, and he got himself a second yellow card to also go off the pitch quite prematurely. And from the resulting free kick, Slavia Prague pretty much put the tie to bed. Stancio with a brilliant free kick over the wall into the back of the net, and 2-0, pretty much tied on. Slavia Prague have knocked out another British side, having done for Leicester in the round of 32, and it'll be interesting to see who they face in the next round. But as for Rangers, well, their focus is now on trying to win the Scottish Cup as well as the Scottish Premier League, you would imagine, and trying to go unbeaten in the domestic league as well. So even though it's been a good season for Gerrard and his side, they'll be disappointed not to have gone any further in the Europa League. And then two other ties that took place in the evening kickoffs. First, it was Villarreal against Dinamo Kiev. Tie was pretty much done after the first leg. Villarreal won 2-0 in Ukraine, and they repeated that scoreline in the second leg, with Gerard Moreno getting both goals in the first half to pretty much seal the deal. And under Unai Emery, Villarreal will be one of the teams to watch in the latter stages of the competition, given the manager's pedigree of winning this competition 3 times with Sevilla. So could he lead them to Europa League success and a spot back in the Champions League? We'll see, but as for now, they've done a good job, Villarreal. They're through to the quarterfinals, as will Ajax, who, after winning 3-0 in the first leg against Young Boys at home, they completed the job very professionally with a 2-0 win in Switzerland. Goals from David Neres in the first half and Dusan Tadic in the second from the penalty spot. And Ajax won the game tie quite comfortably. They'll also be one of the teams to look out for in the latter stages of the competition. And I'm sure the English sides will want to avoid them until at least the final of of course, given their strong European pedigree as well. So that's all of the ties that I've reviewed for this week. We'll now move on to my reaction for the draw for the quarterfinals of the Champions League and the Europa League. After they were both made on Friday. For the Champions League, there were some intriguing ties. First up, first tie that was drawn was Manchester City against Borussia Dortmund. City will be heavy favourites to get through given their superiority in the Premier League, whilst Dortmund are struggling quite a bit in the Bundesliga. I think they're 5th in the Bundesliga and still fighting to get themselves into a top 4 and with a spot in next season's Champions League. But with their defence as porous as they are, I don't really hold out much hope for them to get past the Citizens, even though they've got one of the best strikers in world football at the moment in Erling Haaland. I still don't think they'll have enough to get past City, so I'm going for a City to go through to the semi-finals. And then the second tie drawn out was Porto against Chelsea. Porto were not really expected to get this far, having drawn Juventus in the last 16, but they managed to do the job. But they've got a difficult tie against the Chelsea side, who look very good under Thomas Tuchel, and will be the favourites to progress to the last 4. Their defence has been superb since Tuchel came to the club in January, whilst I still have my issues about Porto's defence as well. So even though both sides are good going forward, I still think Chelsea will have enough to get the better of Porto over the 2 legs. So I'm going for Chelsea to get through to the semi-finals. And then third tie is a very mouth-watering one. Bayern Munich against Paris Saint-Germain, a rematch of last season's Champions League final, which the Bavarians won. And they'll be strong favourites to get the better of the Parisians once again, given both sides' form of late. PSG are still in the fight for the Ligue 1 title in France, and I know Bayern Munich are the same in the Bundesliga, but they look to be in better form than PSG. So I think over the 2 legs, Bayern Munich will go through from this one. And then the final tie is another repeat of a final in previous years, Real Madrid against Liverpool. This is the first time that the 2 teams will meet since the 2018 final in Kiev, which Real Madrid won by 3-1. And even though Liverpool have improved from that final, and Real Madrid have slightly regressed, given there's no Ronaldo there, and they've been a bit vulnerable defensively, I still think Real Madrid will get the job done here because of Liverpool's shaky defence at the back, the fact they've got so many injuries in that area, and against a side as good as Real Madrid going forward, with Benzema in the form of his life, and the likes of Modric, Kroos and Casemiro midfield. I find it very difficult for Liverpool to really make a case for them to stop that midfield and that attack up front. So with their defence as injury hit as it is, so I expect Real Madrid to go through from this one. And then there was also the draw for the semi-finals as well, that I'm not going to go into too much detail about, but basically I think the pairings were that if Real Madrid, the winner of the tie between Real Madrid and Liverpool will face the winner of the tie between Porto and Chelsea, and the winner of the Bayern Munich Paris Saint-Germain tie will face the winner of the Manchester City against Borussia Dortmund tie. So if my predictions go the way they are, then we're expecting a Real Madrid versus Chelsea and Bayern Munich versus Manchester City semi-finals, which will be 2 very tasty semi-finals indeed. But I'll do preview those in a later video as the ties come around then. And then in the Europa League, the draw for the quarterfinals was made as well. And these are the pairings. First up, it was Granada against Manchester United. Pretty favourable one that for United, given what Granada are and the fact it's their first ever season in Europe. I fully expect Manchester United to progress from that one, but don't rule out Granada causing a shock or two in this one. I mean, it'll be one of the biggest shocks ever in Europe if Granada do somehow progress. So I expect United to go through given their superior European pedigree, and they've got superior quality in their side as well. So United for me in this one. Another of the British sides left, Arsenal, they've got what looks to be a favourable draw against Slavia Prague, but the fact that Slavia have knocked out two British opponents makes me wary of whether or not this Arsenal are certain favourites to go through. I still think the Gunners will have enough to do it over the two legs, but this won't be as easy as many people think, given how good Slavia have been in the Europa League and domestically as well, where they're still unbeaten. So could be a close game this, but I expect Arsenal to go through to the semi-finals. The third tie that was drawn out is a very tantalising one. A big European clash between two heavyweights, Ajax against Roma. It's very difficult to call this one for me, given how well both sides have performed in this season's competition. Ajax are flying, having gone unbeaten in like their last 20 or so games, and Rome look like they're going to win the Eredivisie title as well. And Roma, well, they're still in the fight to get into the top four in Serie A. So, but will they have their eyes focused on this competition as well? So it'll be interesting to see how this tie plays out. But if I were to make a pick, I'd actually say Roma would go through, because I think they've got more experience than Ajax, and when the nitty-gritty comes, I think they'll have the better of it in that department. So I'm going for Roma to go through. And then the final tie to be drawn out is Dinamo Zagreb, who surprised Tottenham to get this far, against Villarreal, who are managed by a Europa League specialist in Unai Emery. So this will also be an interesting tie as well, given how strong Dinamo were in the last round. But I actually expect Villarreal to get through. They've got the better players. They've got a very good manager, and I think that they'll take care of business against a very good Dinamo side. I know the Croatians are very strong themselves, but I just don't think they have enough experience in these latter stages of the competition to really go any further. So I'm going for Villarreal to go through, and so which means that the semi-finals are expected to be Manchester United against Roma and Villarreal against Arsenal, which are two very good ties to look forward to were it to pan out that way. United will have a very difficult semi-final regardless, and their record under Solskjaer in semi-finals has not been good, so that's probably the last thing they needed, a very tough semi-final. And if it was to be Villarreal against Arsenal, then Unai Emery will face his former club. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But we won't look ahead that far just yet, because we don't know how the quarterfinals will pan out. So it's too soon to make predictions for those. But as for now, I've got my predictions for the quarterfinals of both the Champions League and Europa League. It's sure to be a fascinating set of matches next month, and after the quarterfinals are made, we'll see who faces who in the semi-finals, and might have a clear idea as to who will get to the final as well. But as for now, this is the quarterfinal stage, anything can happen, and I look forward to seeing the action unfold as it happens. So once again, thank you once again for watching this video, for finding out what I've got to say about each of the ties in Europe, and I look forward to seeing you all once again very soon. The international break is coming up with the World Cup qualifiers starting next week. and I might preview some of them as they come around. I'm not going to go through all of them because some of them you might, without being disrespectful, they're not really worth watching. And yeah, once those qualifiers get underway, I might react to some of them. So thank you always for watching my videos, for watching my content, and I look forward to seeing you all soon as always. I'm out of here.